Oh, hello and welcome to Dente Rigor Mortis. I'm Review Cultist.
I'm Mikey, the E stands for evil.
And I'm the gamer in yellow.
And we're here to discuss those internet stories, most creepy and most pasta, and be critically silly doing it. And tonight we have A Figure in the Fog, with our return to the Wicker Saga. So yeah, this is the latest of the Wicker Saga stories that we have yet to cover.
Is it new or is it old? But this is the latest one that we're getting.
No, there's tons. Yeah, no, this is the latest that we've gotten to. Like, yeah, there are like still a lot more ahead of us. And this one's actually kind of a sequel to the first Wicker Saga story, The Wicker House. So, but I'll get more into that in my notes and such as we go on and such. But yeah, before any of all that, we should probably give our initial recommendations. A Figure in the Fog and the Wicker Saga and the Wicker House stories are all by Shadow Swimmer 77. You can check them out at creepypasta.wiki. And yeah, before we get too far ahead, let's give our initial recommendations. I'm going to recommend it.
I'm going to partially recommend it.
Okay. I didn't realize we had a Pokemon.
Who am I dittoing? Who knows?
I didn't realize we had a Pokemon in our co-hosts.
Gamer.
Oh God.
Hello.
And then we go into Ditto world where everything is Ditto.
Yes.
Even the people.
Mm-hmm.
Ditto-scape.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
Yeah, it's like Mimicscape except Dittos.
Mimicscape, it's like Dogscape actually.
No, I know it's like Dogscape, but like there's like the everything is Mimics world.
Yes.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah, so A Figure in the Fog. We should probably start with our rundown and then see why we gave those initial recommendations. And see which one gamer indeed dittoed. So Jamie has a pretty hard family life. Alongside his mother and younger brother Lester, they have to deal with their drunk father/husband, who is quite abusive and gets even violently worse the more he drinks. During a really bad night where Jamie was seriously injured by his father after Jamie did try to kill his father with a baseball bat because the father was hitting and hurting his mother, Jamie vowed one day he would succeed in killing his father, despite making a promise to his mother that he wouldn't do it. Now, that aside, they live in Arthur's Wake, a dying town where a certain Wicker House resides, and where kids tend to go disappearing. One such missing kid, Claire, the younger sister of Jamie's friend and recent crush, Morgan, has recently gone missing. After going over and trying to comfort her and console her, Jamie and Lester find that Morgan dared her sister to go into the old abandoned Wicker House down the street, and something took her and changed her. She now flies over to Morgan's window at night on the second floor, all pale and black-eyed, tapping and trying to get Morgan to let her inside for some nefarious purpose, or suspected nefarious purpose. Now Morgan has been researching while hiding away in her room and found that the thing is likely the Lady Wicker, the mysterious wife of Thomas Wicker, who killed himself and their house staff some 40 years ago. According to her research and the journal she found, Morgan learned that whatever Lady Wicker is, it was trapped in the house because of symbols on the walls of her bedroom. But some of those symbols are smudged and need to be repaired. It's what's probably allowing the Lady Wicker to have some influence just slightly outside of her house. Jamie agrees to help, and they sneak out that night and paint with paint and brush to fix the problem. When they get into the Wicker House, and start making the repairs to the symbols, a fog rolls in, and the Lady Wicker's eyes mesmerize them for a bit, until Lester shows up to snap Jamie out of it. Morgan is down for the count, and with Lester by his side, surrounded by the Lady Wicker and her ghostly children that she has taken and turned into her servants, the two try to escape with Jamie whipping out a flask of salty holy water. Salt that he put salt in a flask of holy water that his mother keeps on her bedside table that he had swapped, and splashes it against the Lady Wicker and the ghost, and they seem to repel from it, giving Jamie and Lester enough time to flee out that room with Morgan. They get down to the ground floor, but Lester falls through part of the stairs and is stuck. Jamie takes Morgan out beyond the property and then goes back inside in a futile attempt to try and save his brother, though not before confessing his love to Morgan and saying goodbye. Later, Jamie and Lester are pronounced missing. Their mom has left their dad, Frank, the father, who now drunkenly walks to the Wicker house and decides to burn it down. But before he can, a fog rolls in, and his ghostly children, along with the Lady Wicker, converge upon him and claim him as their next victim. Finn. So yeah, that was, in a nutshell, a figure in fog. So, I suppose we should move on to Tolerates the Grammar Inquisitions. At this point, I do have a fair amount, so we'll see how this goes.
Would.
Yeah, well, I mean, not a huge amount. I'm sure, like, Mikey probably has a few more, especially with the Conjunction Junction or an It story.
What? That never happens.
Yeah, I know. But anyway, so my Grammar Inquisition start with this. Once last year, his father had been in a particularly black drunk. I don't think that's a term. I think maybe it should have been a blackout drunk stupor.
It's a blackout. If you're blackout drunk, you're like just knocked out, basically, right?
Well, no, actually, blackout means that you're just going to forget what you've done.
Oh, like, I thought blackout is like you pass out.
No, you just completely lose all sense of all memory and sense of what you're doing until the next day. Okay,
gotcha.
Well, no, you forget what happened, and then you wake up like you don't know what happened other than you were drunk.
Yeah, because that's basically what I said.
Okay. Because as it's written, it's weird.
Yeah,
he's
and I mean, like,
in a black drunk state. Like, I don't know.
And it is mentioned, I think, later on, like at near the end, I think he says like he's in one of his black moods or something like that, and it's like, okay, so maybe it's like it's like basically like in one of his dark drunk moods, because there is like sort of like different people react differently when they're completely like inebriated. Like there's angry drunks and there's happy drunks, and so like maybe this is just like he becomes a black drunk, like a dark drunk. Obviously, like kind of going on more of like a malice or like a malignant kind of thing.
Yes.
But my suggestion for the starting line is probably like blackout drunk stupor. So, but my next one here, Jamie swung as hard as he could, only to have the bat plucked from his hands as easily as a child pulling the wings off a fly. You little shit! The slap hit Jamie hard enough to see stars, his head snapping backward, and he stumbled against the wall. So, I know a lot of the dialogue in this story, especially at the beginning, is just separated from the rest of the paragraphs and uses italics to differentiate.
What?
But I still think that there should be like dialogue quotations around them when they're being said, because like it doesn't seem like this is like a memory kind of thing, or like this is like being like something that like Jamie is hearing in his head, which is sometimes like why you do this kind of thing. It seems like this is actually like a scene that's happening in the now, and like these words that are being said, like "get off" or "Jamie, he'll hurt you" kind of thing. Those should all be like really just being quotes. Especially since like later in the story we get proper quotations for dialogue.
Oh yeah, if there is proper quotes later, then consistency is important.
Yeah. I just didn't really. It's like the person was like writing in a certain way, like in a certain style, like halfway through, and then decided, oh, I want to do like regular, like another style. But yeah, that's what I got for that one. The next thing I have, they talked for a while. Ever since they talked for a while, ever so often, shooting concerned glances at him through the doorway. So this might be a nitpick, but shouldn't it be every so often, or is it ever so often?
I think every sounds better to me, at least.
Yep.
Yeah, like everything, even like the dictionary I'm looking at and stuff, it says like every so often. So I don't think it's. Oh, hang on, which is correct? Probably should have looked this up earlier.
What?
Or use it yourself. Well, you may be surprised to learn that the expression is actually a common mistake in most writing. So no, it is a correct. The correct phrase is every so often, not ever so often. But it is a common misconception to use ever so often. Okay, so yeah,
We did it.
yeah. Move on to the next thing I have. Deep circles under her eyes suggested she hadn't slept for the last several days, and her raven black hair was snarled into a tangled bird's nest on the top of her head. Oh God, her hair's snarling?
Yeah, weird.
I think you wanted gnarled. Like kind of like, because like in gnarled is sort of more of like a tangled mess kind of description.
Probably right.
And then my next one, that's the first day the fog really came in. We were practically on top of the house before I could see it. Okay, so I get what it's trying to say here, like that the fog was so dense they could see they couldn't see the house till they were practically next to it. Like they were next, like the fog rolled in when they were practically on top of the house, like basically like on top of its coordinates kind of thing. But the way I keep reading it keeps reading as if like they are on top of the house physically, like on its roof or something.
Really?
Yeah.
Thinking that jokingly?
No, like literally like popped in my head. Like, okay, what? No, okay. Like my first like knee jerk was actually that they were on the roof for some reason, and then I realized, oh no, they're trying to do that. So I just think like some slight rewording might like help clarify that for some people.
Yeah.
But yeah, like maybe like we were practically at the house before I could see it, something like that. And then the last Grammar Inquisition I have is a feeling that he was being watched began to grow stronger, and Jamie felt a rash up goosebumps break out down his arm. I think it's a rash of goosebumps, not a rash up goosebumps.
Oh, yeah, I guess you're right.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't notice any of these.
That's fair. But that is all I've got for Grammar Inquisition. So, Mikey, these stands for evil.
All right. Let's see here. Jamie had lain in the bedroom he shared with his brother, staring at the ceiling for as long as he was able, tears quietly streaming down his face, listening to the shouts through the thin walls accompanied by heavy thumps and soft moans.
That's pretty run on.
Yes.
There are some commas, but that's still pretty run on.
Yeah. So I added a period after brother and said that he shared with his brother. So Jamie had lain in the bedroom that he shared with his brother. Period.
Yeah.
And then staring at the ceiling for as long as he was able, tears quietly streaming down his face while he listened to the shouts through the thin walls accompanied by heavy thumps and soft moans. So just a little bit of a rewrite to make it
Yeah.
Bit more easy to read.
Yeah. Also, I think the period that you add at the beginning there, like, I think actually fixes the problem I have when I put it into my actual thoughts. I was going to put it in my Grammar Inquisition, but it felt like it was more of an actual thought. But I guess I'll just cover it now so I can get it out of the way. Honestly, when I first read it, I was like, I know, again, it's one of those things where I was like, I'm being really like critically silly here, maybe, but it was just like, Jamie had laid in the bedroom. He shared his with his brother, staring at the ceiling for as long as he was able. Blah, blah, blah. I know this is a dark and serious moment, but I kept envisioning that Jamie was just lying on the bedroom floor from the beginning on the sentence. It wasn't until a little later that it was clarified that it was a bed. He was sleeping. He was like lying on a bed. Though, to be honest, given his oppressive, like, shitty helm life, not having a proper bed to sleep on, and sleeping on the floor might have actually fit the situation.
Yeah, possibly.
But like with that period, it does kind of like help fix that a little bit, like help us get rid of that out of your mind. Because like I think like Jamie had lain in the bedroom he shared with his brother, period. Or where did you put that? Like, did you replace that comma at the end of that sentence with a period?
Which one?
The first period. Where is it in the sentence?
Where is it in the sentence? I put it after brother.
Yeah.
But the actual period is after bones because it's a wrong sentence.
Yeah. But if you put that period like with the brother one, it does kind of like help break that up, and like kind of then you can just kind of assume that they're like he's on a bed staring up at the ceiling. He's not on his floor. Again, I might be just being like really like dumb for like knee jerk reactioning like to that, but I think honestly that period would have helped for that kind of clarification. So you may proceed.
All right. The next Grammar Inquisition I have is dialogue, so technically it gets a pass. But I felt like it had a couple words that weren't needed. So it's that little Fontaine girl's the latest one. Last week. Her dad stopped by the factory today out of his goddamn mind. So I feel like the last week doesn't really need to be there because we already know that the girl that's missing is the latest one. And it's still wreaking havoc because the dad stopped by the factory today.
Yeah. I guess it does. It might. I don't know. Yeah, like it might kind of give some credence. I mean, we do find out later that like, since she went missing, she's been like kind of like Claire's ghost. Claire has been stalking Morgan at her window. So like, it just kind of helps emphasize that like it's been like a week since Claire went missing, and now like in that week she's been like tormenting her older sister. But yeah, I could also like. I think I can agree with what you're saying here. Is like, it doesn't need to be there. It could be vague enough, like in the dialogue.
Yeah. All right, and then I have a conjunction junction, which is mostly dialogue, but it's still a conjunction junction.
Anyways,
we really do need to just get shirts. Like it's the way the character talks in quotes. But I digress.
And next stop, conjunction junction. Doot, doot.
Section 1. And how I got mine. And I'm taking them with me. It was a long time before Jamie managed to fall asleep. But something always held him back. Jamie told himself it was the promise he'd made to his mother, but the small, honest part of his mind knew it was because he was afraid. It probably helped that, somehow, he managed to avoid the layoffs at the factory. And don't even get me started about all the disappearing kids. Or you'll be the next one on the side of the milk carton. But you stay right with me and do what I say. Got it? But it won't take that long to drop you off. It must have been really something back in its day, what with its massive stone walls and windows, enormous garden, and high iron fence. But the wicker house had been abandoned for more than 40 years. It was obvious she had been crying. It's a trying time, and Morgana needs her friends to help her through this. It's Jamie. And you know how she usually feels about me, even standing out on your porch. It was hard to see details in the dark, but Jamie could smell the dirty clothes heaped about the room and noticed piles of used dishes stacked here and there throughout. And he was some kind of an explorer, had all kinds of weird stuff he did in Africa and all over the place. And, but everyone knows, Jamie, and everyone's wrong. And let me tell you, boys, in this case, the truth is a whole hell of a lot stranger than fiction. It took Jamie half an hour to page through the journal and stories. But that's nothing. But then it was a dare. It was just a stupid dare. It was accompanied by a picture of the second story of the house, in much better condition than it currently stood, and Jamie could see the fuzzy image of a woman standing in the window, the only detail a surprising sharpness of her eyes. So last week I decided I'd go inside and see if I could find anything. So we went up and poked around. It was getting late, so we went back home. But the worst part was that my fear hadn't gone away. So last Saturday we snuck out again. It was probably only a minute or two, but it felt like hours. It was hard to make it out through the fog, but it was definitely person-shaped. It was there for a moment, and I could tell it was looking at me, but then it moved away from the window. But I couldn't be happy for her, because I knew she wasn't alone in the house. But I didn't. It was like that. But even so, I could see this pair of eyes staring at me from near the front door. But I did, screaming and crying and blubbering the whole way. It took them a while to get me calmed down enough to tell them what happened. It's been going on for a while now, Jamie. I'll bet even longer than they think or would admit. It's all in here. But she got free. And Wicker decided he'd rather kill himself than face what he knew she'd do once she was. But there's nothing about it other than those eyes that suggest there are ghosts or demons or whatever that are responsible for this. And that could have just been your mind playing tricks on you. it was probably just some homeless guy. Because remember how I said when she moved away from the window that was the last time I saw her alive? It's why I haven't been able to sleep. But somehow I know that's not it at all. It's not that she wants to be let in. It's that she wants me to come out. But Morgan, your room is on the second floor. So, any more bright ideas or thoughts about how crazy I am? Section 2. It hadn't been any trouble to sneak out. It was too easy to walk out the front door with only the slightest creak of hinges to betray his exit. But then, when he realized he wasn't going to convince Jamie to stay back, he'd tried to insist on coming himself. It can't be she's completely free, though, or she wouldn't still be hanging around the wake. It seemed like a good plan, as far as Jamie could tell, except he would have preferred they go during the daylight. But there's no way my parents will let me go over there after everything that happened, and they keep a close enough eye on me during the day that there's no way I'd be able to sneak out. And so he reluctantly agreed. Its empty gaze seemed to follow them as they made their way up the overgrown path and slipped through the front door. It seemed as if they glowed with a faint luminescence, and not for the first time Jamie wondered if conducting the repairs would be as easy as Morgan had made it out to be. But I had to come, I just had to. And then you wouldn't wake up, and the kids were standing around us, and I'm not asking you to, but he's my brother. Section 3. It was the drink that made him lash out, and the stress he was under to provide for a family that made him drink. It was too much to ask to give it up completely. And hadn't he treated her well? And he never hit the boys, not after that time. And somehow his boys were mixed up in the middle of it. And now he'd heard the Fontaines had packed the girl off to some loony bin somewhere. But no, there was Jamie in front of him. But don't worry, we're here now, and our mother is with us. And was that the other Fontaine girl next to them? It had to be. Finn.
Wow. Thank you for that extended synopsis of the story again. I do like so early on in it, I like when you said section 1 because you were referring to like the story is kind of cut into 3 sections because of a dividing horizontal line.
Mm-hmm.
I thought I immediately started thinking of this with the again broken up sentences that you were like reading through. I started thinking it was like, oh, like this, like it's like some kind of like SCP organization or like the father's a part of or something like that, bring his kids along to go to the Wicker House because like we never, it's all about the Wicker House. There's no mention of like where Morgan lives or anything like that. It's all about the Wicker House. So they're going into the Wicker House stuff right and early, and then you start just going into like the dialogue stuff, and I honestly it just started like, okay, it's just there's a lot of dialogue in the story that it uses conjunctions and stuff like that, but like that's fine. It's the way the character talks. And that's when it basically became more of like, oh, it's basically just doing like a synopsis of the story, like through broken sentences. Yeah. Except for the end, and then they just like, oh, they're together again. They're all happy again, even though the dad's a shitty drunk father. So it almost made it sound like at the end like it was like a happy ending. But yeah.
These kind of things happen when Mikey grabs all the sentences that start with words that they probably shouldn't, like its, ends, or buts, because there's always better words to use. Except when it's dialogue, when it doesn't matter.
Yeah. Because I repeat,
it's going to be called out regardless.
It's the way the character talks. Gamer, do we have a grammar in yellow?
Yes. So I'm going to start with part 1, because as any sane individual, I set mine into 3 different parts.
Oh, really?
As you all did too, right?
Nope.
Of course.
I'm going to actually say this.
It's only 3 different stories, basically, but it's fine.
Yes and no. So the reason I didn't do it that way is because as I was reading it with those horizontal line breaks, they were just basically breaking up, like they were just transitioning to a new like time period, or not time period, but like a new scene that was like a couple hours away, like a couple hours or a couple of days removed from like the previous like setting or the previous scene. So I just kind of like it helps for that, like to break it up for like, oh, like establishing, oh, this is like a new scene, like a new time is happening here and new location. But it's not like it could act like a chapter or like a section break, but I didn't even feel like, for me personally, I didn't feel like the need to like have to like break my stuff up into like those sections, but it's fine.
I was gonna say, like, when you read a book,
yeah,
you're shocked that the same characters are in chapter 2 as they are in chapter 1. Like,
yeah.
It's basically what this is.
Yeah.
Anyway, when Jamie and Lester go to see Morgan in a room,
yeah,
and Lester basically says, like, we heard that your sister was taken and all that, and Morgan says, missing, huh, twerp? That's what they're saying? That's what you think's going on? Her laugh had a slight manic tone to it, and continued for several moments too long. Assuming she even laughed at all, because it didn't say that she laughed here at all. So who's to know? Because, like, realistically, this doesn't... I only got the laugh when it said her laugh had a slight manic tone to it, but normally you would describe a laugh after a laugh. So, or, like, reword it to be like, she laughed with a slight manic tone, which continued for several moments too long.
Yeah, that should have been the preface versus, like, being mentioned after the fact.
Well, no, that could be after it, though. Like, the words happen, and then she laughed with a slight manic tone, which continued for several moments too long.
Yeah, but there should have been a preface where it's like she started laughing or something like that, and then the dialogue, right?
Well, you could, but I'm saying, like, after the quote, it says her laugh had a slight manic tone to it, which is referencing a laugh that should have been brought up before.
Yeah.
But if it's switched to she laughed, it's saying that a laugh is happening now with a slight manic tone.
Yeah.
Or she started laughing with a slight manic tone or whatever. To initiate the laugh and then describe it, instead of just describing without initiating.
Gotcha.
Okay, so then this next one. This is when she's showing the journal, and she says, "This old thing?" Morgan's tone was playful, but her eyes were deadly serious. Why, nothing less than the Journal of Thomas Wicker. It took Jamie half an hour to page through the journal. He didn't read it in depth, other than a few passages. Morgan had specifically marked Lester trying to lean over his shoulder the whole time, finally reaching the end. Where'd you get this thing? Or where'd you find this thing? Is what he says. So, like, in regards to what happened in the story, there's an awkward 30-minute silence while Jamie just reads through this whole journal. Mm-hmm. And then after the 30 minutes, he asks, where did you find this thing? I feel like It would flow better if like he's handed the journal saying, "Where did you find this?" and then starts reading
Yeah.
instead of a 30-minute silence.
Yeah, the only other like subtle repair I could do for that part, or like where'd you find this thing, is like he had said as he was handed the book originally.
Yeah.
Like just like the preface, like, oh yeah, like he'd been reading it for half an hour, and then but like as soon as he got in the book, he had said this.
Which is exactly what I said. But
Yeah.
yes. But yeah. I'll move on from there. It seems like always when a story, if there is a length of time mentioned, a lot of the time it's awkward and weird.
You are
and
the
I have to bring it up. Yes. I'm the time cop.
Yeah, you're the time. God damn it. I was gonna say like you are the Time Lord. It's like, no, that's too cool. Or too nerdy.
I mean, I'll take Time Lord, that's fine. That's a shitty game as far as I recall.
Time Lord is no, like times. Well, I'm referencing Time Lord as in like Doctor Who and the Time Lords, but
Oh,
I don't know what game. What game is Time Lords? Are you referring to Time Splitters or?
no, I'm referring to Time Lord. It's a shitty game that I'm gonna bring them up again. The Game Grumps played, and they had Brent Weinbach on as a special guest, and they played Time Lord.
Oh no!
And that was the only time he was on, and he hasn't been on for like a decade, and then he showed up like last week to do another game.
Wow. So
yes.
Connective tissues time? Kinda?
Technically, yeah, because I watched that episode recently, and he brought up Time Lord.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah. Yes, please. I hadn't really thought we'd find anything, but once we snuck in, it looked like the house hadn't been touched in all this time.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like there needs to be a comma in between in and it, because otherwise it's, but once we snuck in, it looked, Yeah.
Yeah.
It should be, but once we snuck in, it looked like, so there's no chance to go in it.
Yeah. Agreed.
And then it says, I don't remember the context, but it doesn't matter. They've, wow, brain, can you work, please? Okay, it's agreed to work. They've had me tell them my story over and over again. Which, they've part sounds weird.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, they have had me.
Yeah, they have had tell me, is what that says. So, I would just say they had me tell them.
Yeah. Yeah, because if it's they've had me, that hurts my brain.
Yeah, you see why I stumbled over it 5 or 6 times? Keep it in the recording.
Yeah, I was gonna say, future me, keep that in. Don't remove that.
Yeah. But it is awkward.
Yeah.
So now I'll move on to my chapter 2 grammar. So this is, I believe we're at the start of it. Let me double check that. Words. Yes, this is at the very start of chapter 2, and at the end of chapter 1, Jamie's like, "Okay, what can I do to help?" As they're in Morgan's house discussing, and Morgan's saying that we need to go do something.
Yeah.
And then line break and skips here, and it says, Jamie silently made his way down the empty streets towards Morgan's house. So they were just in Morgan's house.
Okay.
I know there's a line break.
Yeah.
But so I know that there's time passing here, but it took my brain a minute to be like, wait, they're already in Morgan's house, but he's silently making his way down the street to Morgan's house.
Yeah, it's because that line break, it's a different scene and it's in media res.
Yes, but it's just weird when the last line and the first line contradict each other so much. I know, when you read a little bit further, you understand that this is another day and they've already discussed it, but we didn't get that. Mm-hmm. The whole discussion of what's going to happen, so it was jarring. And a way to correct that, it would be something like, the next night, Jamie snuck out. Instead of saying just Jamie silently made his way down the empty streets. Just so you know there's a time skip.
Yeah.
Like just the simple words of the next night, put at the very start, then comma, Jamie silently made his way down the empty streets. Because then you know.
Mm.
And as we all know, knowing is half the battle.
G.I. Joe.
And then this one. That's the one, she whispered in Jamie's ear. Come on. She shivered, but didn't know if it was from fear or from her closeness. The tingle of her breath on his skin. Period. As it is, it seems like there should be at least one more example being listed. Because it's saying, like, he shivered, but he didn't know if it was from fear or from her closeness. The tingle of breath on his skin.
You know what that is referencing, though, right? You know what that like is insinuating? Because
Sure.
he's got a crush on her, and so like he's not sure if he's shivering because he's afraid or because he's got like butterflies because he's so close to his crush.
I'm not trying to get the deep lore out of this sentence. I'm getting the grammar out of it, and it's weird and awkward because it's a list, but it doesn't end as a list would, because normally you go this, 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 or this, but it's just this. You understand?
I guess, yeah.
You clearly don't.
All right.
Because like it just sounds weird. He shivered, but didn't know if it was from fear or from her closeness. Then there's a comma, so you have to take a break. The tingle of her breath on his skin.
Yeah, because it's describing like why he's like he wasn't sure why he was shivering. Like and describing the shivering. I think it's fine, but
Well,
Can I just read this back to back with the way it is and the way I'm suggesting it?
go for it.
He shivered, but didn't know if it was from fear or from her closeness, the tingle of her breath on his skin. Or, he shivered, but didn't know if it was from fear or from her closeness or the tingle of breath on his skin.
Except that's the description is not the description of like the tingle on his skin from the breath on his skin is the description of like of why he's shivering, not like that actually has to do with more with like the latter of the two things. Either he's afraid or because of the closeness.
I can explain this, or Mikey, go ahead.
Then should it be or from her closeness and the tingle of her breath on his skin?
Yeah, because it's a
that would also
two-part. This is laid out like it's a 3-part list, but it's actually a 2-part list. There's one thing, and then the second thing has 2 parts to it, which aren't super connected. But connecting them with an and does feel a little better.
Sure.
Because it's this or this, which also has this, is what it's trying to say.
Yeah.
So I
agree.
prefer and over my or.
Yeah. Honestly, except it should be like he's not like fear from fear or from her closeness.
That or stays there. It's 2 things. There are 2 things. It's fear or the closeness and breath on the skin.
Yeah, maybe it should even be like that comma should be like the or from her closeness,
As Mikey suggested, and the tingle, closeness and the tingle,
or with the
get rid of the
tingle.
comma. Well, whatever.
I get what you're saying. That like I do understand it. It's just like those two need to be like combined or like her closeness and the tingle stuff has to be combined rather than just having a comma there. The comma is
unnecessary comma.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Then my next one for chapter 2. Crying Jamie started striking at the edges of the stair, trying to work Lester's leg free while the boy whimpered and sobbed.
Crying Jamie. Sorry.
I don't think he recently changed his name to Crying Jamie.
It should
Did
be.
He?
Yeah. So it's the fixed like crying comma Jamie.
Exactly. Thank you for finishing what I was about to say.
Sorry. Yeah. I just.
Because his name is not Crying Jamie now, unless it is.
By that whole thing, it's like an unnatural silence. Cause Jamie, because Cause Jamie is now a thing.
That's a different Jamie.
Yeah. Old Jamie's dead. Long live Crying Jamie.
Okay, now I'll move into chapter 3. He took another slug of booze. I've only heard the word swig of booze, but apparently slug is another way to say it, although I don't agree or approve of it.
That's fair. Yeah.
Because slug could also mean the creature, when
Yeah.
swig only means one thing.
Well, here's the thing, gamer. The English language sucks.
Yeah,
'Cause
I know, but that's
much
why
like
I say I
every
don't
language
approve.
does suck.
Yeah, that's why I don't approve of the other option.
Yeah. I actually, so slight connection fish down to this whole like idea of like we hate the English language. I literally just like watched something like literally like an hour before this recording about how like in Japan the government has put in a law that says you can't have certain names because Japanese language has like words in the Japanese language have multiple they have multiple meanings depending on
yes.
how you say it or how it's organized, and this new trend of like naming your kid and stuff like that has it so that like it clashes greatly with like traditional ways of reading the kanjis and stuff like that for Japanese.
Yeah.
So it's like wow. So it's just not even English that sucks. It's just like every language like kind of sucks by our merit of like words should just mean one thing, not multiple things.
There's no perfect language except for those couple that are apparently designed to be perfect languages.
And even then, like, they aren't popular. So,
Yeah.
It's not the languages, it's society. That's the problem.
I can't remember which language it is.
Esperanto.
I don't think it's that one, actually.
Is it not? Okay.
There's some language out there that, like, everything makes sense. There is no, like, there's no, like, oh, it's a silent whatever the fuck letter. Or this makes sense this way, but doesn't win this way or whatever. Like, everything makes sense all the time. I want to learn that language and just transfer over.
I love Google's AI. I typed in like language where everything makes sense. There's no single language where everything makes sense because the concept of sense is subjective and depends on the individual's perspective, cultural background, and specific context.
Wow, fuck you, Google AI.
Oh man, that's funny.
Mm-hmm. Either way, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
That's the end of my grammar. Go.
Okay. On to actual thoughts. I'm going to start with the title because so a little thing that we kind of find out like right off the hop of the story. This was written as part of a contest where the contestants were given. So it was part of a contest, and so I actually like looked up to see what the contest was like, what the rules and stuff were. So the contest pertained was the contestants were given a title and expected to write a creepypasta using that title as a jumping off point. And seriously, damn. Getting ahead of myself, I really like how this story tells a story that falls in line with the Wicker Saga, and even like it's sort of a prequel to the or it's sort of a pre-sequel to the Wicker House story because it takes this story seems to take place prior to the narrator's experience in the Wicker House story, like in its chronology of like history and stuff like that. But it also, to me, I feel like this story could be as a standalone for the sake of the contest. Like it doesn't need you don't need to have prior knowledge of the Wicker Saga series stories or even the Wicker House story to really get this story. Yeah. So I really liked that. Also, I just thought that was really cool that like this story was originally just a jump. Like they used a title. They were given a title, a figure in the fog, and they just made this story based off that with that title in mind.
Yeah, they honestly like won the lottery getting a good title because like second place got their title was Blue Moon and third place was Shower Curtains.
Yeah,
and they somehow made a good story out of that.
Yeah. Yeah, that was pretty impressive.
Mm-hmm.
Also, the way I said like it's a pre-sequel because like I actually just quickly checked, referenced the Wicker House story like after I read this one. So at the end of the Wicker House story, the character, like the narrator, who's been like kind of like recording all this information about like the Wicker House and like the Lady Wicker and stuff like that, and it talks about like the disappearances of children over the last 60 years, and are in the figure in the fog. it's been 40 years since like the Wicker House started like causing problems. So the Wicker House story is set like 20 years after this story in the chronology.
Yep.
So it is sort of a pre-sequel. But that's just like a thing I just noticed when I was like going through it, because I was like, oh man, it's like it's connected to the Wicker House story. Like it's actually kind of like, it's almost like it is sort of a, at first I thought, oh, it's like a sequel to the Wicker House story, and then when I went back and looked at the Wicker House, I was like, oh, it's more like a prequel or sequel, like a pre-sequel. So yeah, and in a way, it is kind of a pre-sequel because there is a kind of sequel to this, as I'm going to see my next thing here with my quotes. He spoke up without thinking. What? Morgan's missing? His Nani?
Yeah, I was going to say that myself.
His father frowned. No, not Morgan. The other one, the sister Claire. Relief washed over Jamie, quickly followed by shame. He'd known Morgana Fontaine for years. And I was like things started firing off as soon as I heard Morgana Fontaine. I was like, wait a minute. Morgana was the vampire hunter from the last Wicker Saga story we read, One Last Drink. Where she like seemed to be like trying to get revenge for her sister at the end of that story. Like she said she was doing it for her sister as she like barbecued those two vampires with the sun.
Yeah.
At the end of that story. So it's like, oh, so that's kind of a sequel to this story, which is a sequel thingy to the original Wicker House story. So yeah. I'm a sucker for like when like things correlate within a series of stories that somebody has written. So
yeah, definitely.
Yeah. The next thing I have here, half turning back towards the road as he waited, Jamie's eyes fell on the dilapidated building a little farther down the street, as they often did when he walked Morgan home. It must have been really something back in its day, what with its massive stone walls and windows, enormous garden, and high iron fence. But the Wicker House had been abandoned for more than 40 years. Oh, they said the thing. They said it. I mostly said because like a lot of the Wicker Saga stories, they are in the same. They're meant to be in the same universe, but often we don't see much of like the Wicker House. Like that was just kind of like the jumping off point of the stories for other stories that are set in this universe that Shadow Swimmer has made. So
yes.
So I was just excited. It's like, oh yeah, they said it. And then the next one, guys, forgive me, it's going to be a long read. It's a long quote. But I feel like it is like I need to feel out for this. So, what do you know about Thomas Wicker? She said. What? You mean the millionaire? The one whose old house is down the block? That's the one. Yeah. What do you know about it? Or what do you know about him? Jamie was confused by this line of questioning. Well, I mean, like I said, he was a millionaire. I think he had some oil fields or something, and he was some kind of explorer. Had all kinds of weird stuff he did in Africa and all over the place. He built that house about 40 years ago, and he had a wife, but she disappeared a few years after that, and he trailed off. Yes, her face remained blank, but conveyed an air of expectation. He killed himself, Lester whispered softly. He killed his maid and the gardener, and then he jumped out the attic window. Jamie glared at Lester. How do you know about that, Squirt? Lester stared at the ground. Timmy Boyle told the story at school, but everybody knows, Jamie. Morgan's lips curved slightly up into a smile. There was no warmth in it. That's right. Everyone knows, and everyone's wrong, she chuckled, slightly patting the book in her lap. This book, it has the truth. And let me tell you, boys, in this case, the truth is a whole lot stranger than the fiction. So, again, a little bit lengthy, but I wanted to merit like that example of like what I'm getting at for this. Even as dark as the subject matter started with in this story, like real, like on a real level, like the abuse of family member and like missing children and stuff like that. I really love the plot of this with like how it was shaping up. Like it feels like we're about to enter a childhood horror story, like something along the lines of like the Goonies or the Monster Squad, or like Summer of '84, where it's just like a group of kids trying to solve a mystery and have to deal with an evil or something like that. Like, I love that fucking narrative. And to bring up tabletop RPGs, I feel like this could easily be like a Little Fears story or like a Little Fears scenario. So yeah. But I'll move on to the next thing I have here. Jamie frowned. What are you talking about? You mean you've got more? She rolled her eyes and got up from the bed, moving towards the desk. Loads more. The police report from the night Wicker killed himself. News articles about his so-called wife before she mysteriously vanished. And stories. Tons and tons of stories from people claiming to have seen her after she disappeared. And I was just, again, this was sort of like what brought me to actually reread or kind of re-look over like the Wicker House story. I was like, right, if I recall correctly, like in the Wicker House, the wife was some kind of monster. And then like it got me, my thing for this one is like maybe she's some kind of like vampire or something. And it actually reading, like kind of like skimming through like the end of the Wicker House story, it also mentions like a fog, like tendriling around like a character as they're about to like open the door to the Wicker House. So like all that's kind of coming back like to the forefront from like the Wicker House story to this one. It's just kind of through a lens of like some kids that need to try and get wants to get like the one character's sister back, kind of thing, or at least stop the evil that's like slowly leaking out of the house. And then the next thing I have here, this is in reference to actually I'll just reread it. I'll just read the quote I have. So the next quote I have here is, even if I could have seen more clearly through the fog, I don't think it would have helped. Did you know that there's a lot of missing kids in the wake? It's been going on for a while now, Jamie. I'll bet even longer than they think or would admit. I'll bet it's been going on since the night Thomas Wicker threw himself out of the attic window. Since the night she got out. And I was like reading this part, I was like, oh yeah, no, this is definitely bringing to mind like childhood horror movies like from the 80s and early 90s. Like The Lost Boys kind of comes to mind, especially with this passage of just like, it's like one thing I hate about Arthur's Wake, all the goddamn ghost children and vampires. To kind of parody a line from Lost Boys, where it's like one thing I always hate about Santa Carla, all the goddamn vampires. Because in the movies Lost Boys, Santa Carla is the town that there's constant missing people because they're all being eaten by vampires in the town.
Much based on the context.
Yeah. And then the next thing I have here, I'm gonna check what my notes here. Oh yeah, so this is in regards to like talking about how Claire has technically been coming back and like stalking Morgan, and then there's like the part at the end where like they're saying like she's been like tapping on my window, like trying to get me out, trying to get me to come out and stuff like that. And then Lester's like, it's like, so the line is like, but Morgan, Lester whispered wide-eyed, your room's on the second floor. And I was like, oh, I like that. That's good. That's a nice little like revelations. Like, again, vampire movies have like just on the brain while reading the story. So it's just like from Buffy, where like the guy, the vampirized like best friend of Pike is like knocking on his window. It's like, Pike, come on out. It's like, you're floating, man. So it cuts out like to the outside of the window, and you just see like he's on the second floor. His window's on the second floor, and his buddy's just floating above the right in front of the window.
Yes.
Yeah. Again, I was very much enjoying the themes that the story was proposing, or the aesthetic of like kind of like an 80s, 90s kids horror vibe. So if it hasn't been obvious yet.
What should you view the kids at in this?
Like how old?
Yeah.
Probably like 10 or 12.
Mm-hmm.
Like the older, like the older kids, and then like the other, like the younger kid was probably like 8.
Yeah.
Something along those lines. The next thing I have here, Morgan had already lost Claire screwing around with this house, and whether he was about to encounter demon women or just some deranged pedophile, there was no way Jamie would let the squirt tag along. Not this time. That's okay. He's going to show up later anyway, right? That's going to happen. It feels like that kind of story. And then update. Well, I was right, sadly.
Yeah.
Rip
Good
Lester
job.
and Jamie.
You made it happen.
Yeah, I know. Well, no, I just like it's that kind of like genre. Like it's very much like, yeah, no, the little brother's gonna like come to the rescue, or at least like come into like the third act.
Yeah.
Though I guess technically it would be the second act since this was like a three section story.
According to me, apparently.
Yeah. It does. I did say like I did again. Reading it, I didn't bother like worrying about like those sections because it just like it worked fine for me. But like as we were like doing, as you were like kind of using them and like reading quotes and stuff from it, it's like I do kind of get like, yeah, they do kind of have like a chapter feel, like especially like the first one where it's like, all right, I'm in, and then that would have been the end of a chapter, and then the next chapter would have started where it starts where like Jamie was biking back to Morgan's place, like, and then like laying that out. So like it does, if it wasn't together, it would actually make more sense that like those two sentences were the way they were. Like if they weren't so close together on like the page that we were reading it from.
Correct.
Yeah. But I digress from that. I'll move on to my next thing here. Where was this part? Oh yeah, this one. Good, you're here. I didn't want to have to wait for you out here alone. No telling if my sisters will decide to show up, and I really don't want to find out what happens if she does. Did you bring the paint and brushes? Jamie patted the backpack slung over his shoulder. Yeah. You have the journal? Morgan held it up along with a battery-powered flashlight to help us see so we can draw the symbols. Let's go. I want to get this over with. In silence, the pair stepped into the fog. Why didn't Jamie bring his bat? Like, did they not bring anything to defend themselves? And then update later on when they're surrounded by like the vampires and stuff like that, we get this quote. It's like, he gripped a small bottle concealed inside his pack. Ready, run. And in one motion, like Jamie flipped the cap and it reveals that he'd taken like a flask of holy water from his mom's or that his mom had on her nightstand, and added an extra bit of salt just for good measure in case it was ghosts and not vampires, like the comic said. And so like that was like, okay, yeah, boy, glad to see you aren't from Dirtland and actually had a trick up your sleeve.
It was essentially just pocket sand.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, like, it kind of makes sense because like he's already had some like maybe like a deterrent of like using a bat or something like that because of what happened with him and his dad. Like maybe he doesn't. Maybe the bat has betrayed him, so he doesn't have not like.
Oh yeah, because he used the bat
like,
earlier, so he could have used it like.
He could have, but like I could also see him. I could also see him like kind of like seeing it like, oh, it's useless because it couldn't even deal with my dad. But, like, so what's it gonna do against like supernatural forces? Kind of.
Yes, that would have been like a good scene to have though to connect things better.
Yeah, that could be an improvement for sure. But yeah, again, like pocket sand, pocket holy water, or backpack holy water.
Yes.
But yeah, backpack holy water is my new favorite pocket sand move.
It's also my favorite ska band.
Yeah. And then we get into part 3 with this quote. Hello, Father. Frank drunkenly swayed where he stood. Was he imagining things? But no, there was Jamie in front of him, paler than usual, and his eyes strangely black. But there was no mistaking his boy. Yeah, it looks like Jamie got his revenge on his father after all in the end. Which, and don't get me wrong, the dad deserves this. But also, I kind of like how the story gave us some backstory, or at least a perspective from the father, to kind of give us like why he's a drunk. While also not trying to get us to wholly be sympathetic toward him. Like, yeah, he's had like so the story like tells us it was like, yeah, like he like didn't they know like I was like keeping a roof under their head and like I only drink because like I can't do, like it gave us perspective of like why he drinks the way he does, but it doesn't like it tells it from his perspective, so it's like, oh, we're not that sympathetic because like it's still coming from this asshole.
It doesn't justify it.
But it also like it. I feel like that like telling us that kind of stuff in the story, or like leading up to this, still makes him like he's more than just a 2D shitty dad. He's a 3-dimensional shitty dad.
Yeah.
With those, he's not just a cardboard cutout shitty dad. He has some depth to him. But he's still a shitty dad, and deserves. And I'm glad that he got what was coming to him. But yeah. And then the last part here is actually the ending, and I just want to read this out. The cloud continued to thicken until all that was visible were a few shadows that seemed to struggle briefly before falling still. There was no sound, as sighs and screams alike were drowned, lost in the fog. Covered in a blanket of white, Arthur's wake continued to die. I just really love that ending bit, because earlier at the beginning of the story, like we get like Arthur's wake is a dying town, like the father had said it a couple of times, and then just to have it like covered in a blanket of white, Arthur's wake continued to die. I just love that. Like, oh, I got chills just reading that again. So I really enjoyed that line. But yeah, that's what I got for A Figure in the Fog. So Mikey, the E stands for evil.
Alright. So my first actual thought here, as we have stated, the kids are roughly 10 or 12. We know that the younger brother is 8. So that's probably why it's 10 or 12.
Yeah.
But my issue with this is that they seem too smart for their age.
I was thinking that too. That's why I brought up, like, how old do you guys think they are?
Gotcha.
Yeah, like the whole going to the library and researching newspaper articles, being able to read the ramblings of a madman, like there's bound to be a lot of words that they just don't understand, or the context that they don't understand. And I never knew anybody that was age 10 or 12 who went to the library and looked at newspaper articles, because newspapers are what adults read.
Okay. In real life, yes. I mean, and maybe I'm being biased because I am like seeing this through the eyes of like an 80s horror or like kids movie. So like in reality, yeah, this seems a little odd, but like from a perspective of like this is like sort of like a monster movie or like kids dealing with like some evil in their town, it makes perfect sense to me.
Okay.
But yeah.
Now, my next actual thought, which sort of ties into this, is that while reading this story, I had a weird sense of deja vu. Like I'd read the story before, but I couldn't quite put my finger on it. And I went back to the Wicker House, where there's a detective, and the detective researches newspaper articles and such. And we get the description of the house, and a lot of stuff is retread in this one. So that's number one, probably how Shadows From was able to punch out this story for a contest, reusing stuff that they had. But the thing that I thought of that makes this potentially more interesting is that what if the whole researching papers and articles and whatnot is an infection vector. So, like, our character has become infatuated with the Wicker House and wants to know more, and thus wanting to know more, she's become infected and starts researching the exact same things that the detective researched. And so it's one of those things where it's she's not doing what a 10 or 12-year-old would be doing because she's being influenced by the house already.
So
or
it's,
the entity.
I do kind of like that because it's like sort of like adds like a almost like again like a tulpa kind of angle to what the Lady Wicker is. And like it could have been from like an object or some scrolls or something that that Mr. Wicker found like on his expeditions, because apparently he traveled all over the world and grabbed artifacts and stuff. So it could be one of those things that Lady Wicker came from. And I think actually the SCP tends to call those things like cognito hazards. Basically like something that like an earworm or like something that gets in your head. Like or a mimetic virus. It gets stronger the more knowledgeable you are of it. So like, and you become addicted to like trying to find out more about it.
Well, and like it could just be a simple thing of, oh, there's a haunted house at the end of this street. What kid's not going to be interested in a haunted house?
Oh, exactly.
And suddenly you're infected.
Yeah, that's the start, and then that's what kind of like that's the catalyst for having you go to like the library and then you start like getting influenced by the more knowledge you consume, the more knowledge the knowledge consumes you, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So Claire was just kind of taken without having to go through this whole infection process.
Yeah, but she was at ground zero basically, and I think that like what that is like that's the goal of the actual like vector of like the sort of like surrounding like influence or sphere of influence is to get you into that. Oh God, the house is actually alive. It's actually a Dianai house or a Gardenelle. Like it's the house itself is the actual entity, and like all the apparitions are just like side effects of it.
Mm-hmm.
Including the like it emanates a psychic field of influence over sort of an area. Maybe the fog is like an atmospheric side effect of its psychic field.
Yeah, well, at one point it did say that the house was looking at them.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, you're right. We all thought this was a vampire like lady stuck in the house. No, the house itself is a monster. The lady's just the tongue or the something.
The sharp eyes.
Yes. Yeah. They're just like they're yep.
Dangly bit on top of an anglerfish.
Yeah, it's the angler. It's the angler. Yeah.
I think the actual like scientific term for that is dangly bit.
Yeah.
But that's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's the end of my actual thoughts.
Okay, that actually like you didn't ruin it. Thanks. I was
expecting him to ruin everything now.
I was getting scared. All right. What? Wait, because I was like, all right. So Mikey partially liked this. So it's like, what is he gonna say? And then you said that. I was like, okay, I don't hate that. But no, that's good. Gamer.
That's me.
What was your ditto? Was it?
You shall find out, won't you? So Grammar's done. Notes. Chapter 1 notes. My only note on the first part is just like I did not enjoy reading that.
It is a hate read.
It really I'm forced to read it. If I wasn't forced to read it, I would have stopped.
No, but like it's definitely a miserable read.
It really is.
But I was kind of worried that like the rest of the story was going to be like, all right, is this the energy we're going in? we're doing for this whole story.
I was really expecting this to basically be a snuff film.
Yeah,
just in written format.
Yeah. Turns out this was actually more of like a Stephen King sort of like narrative where like we get to see all the trauma at home and then the supernatural thing attacks the characters too.
Because it's just the subject material of it and just how long it holds onto it just really made me uncomfortable.
Yeah, again, I was really hoping it's like, yeah, Jamie, you better kill your dad at the end of this book.
And yeah,
sorry.
So I read the whole chapter 1 and then like got to chapter 2, and then like I started reading through it, and it's just like it's not referencing any of the trauma that I just went through. I hope that's the reason for this. Spoilers, there really isn't.
Kind of. I mean, like it. That was
what did
basically
his trauma help? How did it help the situation?
So it wasn't. It didn't help, but it basically like, and it doesn't really happen in chapter 2. It happens more in chapter 3, where Frank does get his comeuppance for being an asshole. Like he does, but it did cost him his entire family in several different ways.
The story could have literally just been, Jamie and Lester went to Morgan's house because she lost her sister. They went through the house things, and then the kids were taken, and no one believes Morgan, and she's sent to a mental asylum. And the whole part about the abusive father did not have any part to do with the main plot of the story at all.
No, it was just like to give you more depth into like that character's into that character's like life, and also kind of give her like have a little bit more of like a give the dad more karmic end at the end of the story.
But the dad isn't the main character.
I know,
the dad has nothing to do with the main plot, and even the things that the dad does to the kid don't affect the kid doing the main plot line at all. The whole dad thing is a side quest.
Yeah.
That like it. I don't know. It didn't help.
Okay, fair.
In my opinion. But that's just me.
Yeah.
But I'll move on to into chapter 2. Then, in regards to their plan to like repaint the sigils on the walls, rather. I wonder if they could have gotten away with this just during the day with adult supervision, because like, if Morgan basically played this off like she believes a demon took her sister, and she saw the marked sigils and wants to finish them off to seal the demon, considering that she's a kid, well, depending on how old these kids are, who freaking knows, and is grieving with the loss of her sister, they might just let her go in to just deal with it. Like, it's trespassing and vandalism, but like, I feel like they could have pulled some strings to get the kid closure.
I think that's unrealistic, but
I don't know, man. At least in a story sense. I'm not talking about in real life, but like in a story like that's half believable.
Even with that, like if we're going off like even like there's a story sense, or even like again for me like taking it as like kind of like an 80s 90s kind of variable, it feels more like like in those kind of movies or those kind of narratives, the adults are never helpful. Like it's always up to the kids to do something, because the adults aren't going to believe the kids regardless.
I guess, but I'm just thinking that in the world of like, adults aren't all assholes like Frank. You know?
Yeah. But
I don't know. Well, we'd also have no story if that happened, so I understand.
This is a horror story, so like it's gonna be like rife with darkness and shitty actions and parents.
In regards to that, the quote here says, but there's no way my parents will let me go over there after everything that's happened, and they keep a close enough eye on me during the day that there's no way I'll be able to sneak out. We have to go at night. I like that there's a legit and believable reason why they have to go out at night, though. Because most stories just force it to be night because it's spookier.
Yeah.
But this is like, okay, no, that's fine.
They gave a valid reason, like a logical reason for the kids to like want to have to sneak out at night.
Yes.
Yep.
And then, so the creepy things happen, and Jamie gets Morgan out, but Lester's left behind. And the quote is, tears begin to roll down Morgan's cheeks. Jamie, you don't understand. I can't go back in there. If she uses me the way she wants, it'll mean terrible, terrible things for all of us. For the world. Uh-huh. So Morgan is of world-ending importance all of a sudden? I didn't like that turn, and I hoped it was going to explain it. It did not, and Jamie responds with, I know. and I'm not asking you to, but he's my brother. And like, it's like, no, you don't know. What the hell is she talking about? You don't
Yeah.
know.
So-
Like, unless you were told something in your possession, like when the ghost was possessing both of them that the reader wasn't aware of, or you're just saying as little as possible to get her to leave you alone so you can go back in quick, which might be the case. But I just don't like why all of a sudden she's this special snowflake of world-ending consequences here that we don't find out about.
So
Unless that's just how the trauma of the event affected her sanity, maybe. While Jamie, it just made him need to keep going back in there to get his brother out regardless. Like they just both failed sand rolls differently. I don't know. It's weird.
Yeah, this. So I didn't bring this up, but you brought it up. So it's like this kind of puts a kink in my wrong kink or wrong. Sorry, I'm using a word, a different meaning of a word.
Oh, really? Oh, every word should only have one
gamer.
meaning.
Oh god. I have the lawyer in yellow. It's like, anyway. But yeah, so like it a flaw then in my idea of like that this story is actually like works really well as a standalone. It still does, but this part here, I think might be like Shadow Swimmer maybe adding a little bit of like pushing a little bit like, oh, like there's a greater cosmic thing going on like in my other stories, like that might be tied to, or it could even just be that like maybe the Lady Wicker is planning on like taking Morgana's body as a vessel. But then why did she not take Claire's body? So that's my one problem with that one. Or like has she just been taking boys up until Claire? Like they've just been like kidnapping and turning like boys into her children. But like she's been waiting for a girl to basically like take the vessel of and like so that she can like leave the house like as a physical being, not a.
She already has Claire.
Yeah, no, that's the one flaw in that reasoning is that Claire. But maybe like Claire was too young. Maybe like Morgan's the right age or something. I don't know.
My thought was that she's been there multiple times and has had the most exposure without actually being caught.
Oh, that's true. It could be that.
And when she is in the room, her eyes slide into the back of her head, which none of the other characters we know do that.
Yeah.
Because we know Jamie just sort of goes into a trance and gets slapped out of it by Lester.
Yeah.
But
I was just picturing Lester like the Pikachu in the first Pokemon movie. She's like, slap. Wake up, Jamie, wake up. Sorry. But you're right. Like all the other characters, like she definitely seemed to have reacted differently to the influence.
And the other thing is that she, for some reason, got access to the journal.
Yeah, she was allowed to leave the house with that journal because she found it in the attic.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, the ghost can only be there at certain times because like they had time to start finishing the sigils, and then they like, oh, the fog's showing up, we need to go. So like there is a telltale sign of when it's going to show up. So it's possible she just snuck it before the ghost noticed they were there.
Yeah.
But yeah, also that.
Yeah, it's left in the air a little bit. Like that part's left a little ambiguous as to like why she fears that she's gonna like if she gets taken by the Lady Wicker, it's gonna be bad for the world.
It's like it's setting up for a sequel, which may be the case. Yeah.
We might be getting that in like a later story, but yeah.
But in the moment, it's like, where is this plot line going?
Yeah.
This plot line is more important than the abusive father, but the abusive father gets so much more screen time than that plot line.
You really hated that abusive father plot line.
It was completely unnecessary.
Fair. But yeah, I guess you're still up there, gamer.
Oh yeah, it's still my turn.
I should leave that. Future me, leave that pregnant pause in there.
So actually talked about that, and we are into chapter 3, where I only really have one note, which like I already talked about it. It's regarding the perspective shift back to Frank.
Yeah.
Like, I'm glad it shifted back to him to make the hellish intro at least be somewhat more worthwhile. Because I was, by the time I got to the end of chapter 2, I'm like, so I read through that whole thing for no reason. But at least there's like some reason, because as you said, he gets his comeuppance at the end. So yay. But I still think the intro went too far. But as a narrative device to make me not care whether this guy gets ended by this spirit, it works. And even though like this ending chapter tries to get us to sympathize with him a lot, which like I get it, but goddamn.
Yeah, I don't think it's trying to like it's
It absolutely is. Like
it's trying to get
he's going there and he's like, I'm just gonna burn the place down.
Yeah. I miss my boys. I didn't mean to almost to hospitalize my boy.
No. My wife, though,
drink.
absolutely meant to beat the shit out of her all the time.
That's just what you do. Like, and then I was like, okay, Frank,
Okay, boomer.
you should have stopped talking a little bit earlier.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, let's get Frank off of Twitter.
Yeah.
It's so much that.
Yeah, it's absolutely that.
Oh god, yeah.
But
things are done. I don't know why that's just so much funnier now.
Because it's ridiculous these days.
It's awful. It's absolutely awful, but it's like it's hilariously awful.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah. Fuck that guy.
Indeed. But that's the end of my notes, honestly.
All right. Yeah, so on to final thoughts. I'm still going to recommend it. It's dark, both in subject matter and tone, while also giving that vibe that feels like an 80s kids horror genre. Like, again, any number, like from Stephen King to Spielberg, like that. Those kind
all
of
Stevens.
Yeah, all the Stevens of the 80s. Like those kind of narratives and those kind of like tropes and genre I was like here for. Like I love those that genre of horror fiction. So I also like how we return to the Wicker House, and there are perhaps hints with the greater Wicker cosmos and conflict. This is actually with regards to like Morgan and her, like, oh, like if the Lady Wicker gets me, like it'll be all over for the world. Like maybe that's a hint to something more that like from like in the grander scheme of things in the setting. But we'll have to, I guess, perhaps find out. Like maybe Lady Wicker will get a second pass at Morgan in the future or something, or maybe she'll find another vessel or something to possibly leave the Wicker House. We'll have to see. But all in all, like despite some of its flaws and some things that could be retooled or reworked, I loved it. I would definitely recommend this. Yeah. Mikey, D stands for evil.
Yeah. So, as I stated, my number one flaw is the age of the kids doing things that are too smart. But again,
the kids, or just the unknown age of the kids, because we don't really know. For all we know, they're like 16, 17.
Well,
right?
Even if they're 16, 17, like then they're in their angst stage, in which they're not going to be doing any researching.
Way to really stereotype like an entire age group, sir.
It's called teenage angst for a reason.
Wow.
Yeah, but I feel like that angst would go away when it comes to family.
Yeah. Morgan just suddenly becomes Vin Diesel.
Yeah.
Her black hair just like falls out and it becomes bald.
Mm-hmm.
There's a wife beater. It's Frank's.
Oh god.
Wow, yeah. But yeah, sorry. Continue.
Yeah, so for me, that's the part I didn't really care for with in regards to their age. We don't get a set age, but we can assume that they're 2 to 4 years older than the younger sibling.
Yeah.
So, again, they seem too smart, is my takeaway. Now, I did quote unquote solve that by saying that they're basically have become infected by the house, and they need to feed on knowledge of the house type thing, or learn more and more about the house, which means that they're doing things that aren't typical of kids that age. And the fact that this happened in the Wicker House story with the detective doing all this research, but then he's a detective, so he's bound to do research.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's what sort of doesn't really hold as much water in this story. And then, as we've pointed out, that the intro is very dark, and as Gabriella pointed out, if he didn't have to read the story, he would have quit in the first few paragraphs, because it's not necessarily an enjoyable read at that point. So, that being said, I'm still going to give this a partial, because number one, I solved my own issue with their age by making it more supernatural. But I don't know how you solve the intro portion.
I'll tell you how. You cut it down. You have less of it. A tasteful amount of
abuse.
Of abuse, yes.
Wow. Yes. It's like what we used to do, like it was like taste, like it was like, oh, there we had, like, this was years ago, we had like, it was like tasteful, like there was like something like really horrible or horrifying, like real world skeevy. And I was like, oh, it was done very tastefully. Or it was like, yeah, very tastefully done, like sexual assault or something like that.
Yeah, I don't remember what it was.
It was something skeevy along those lines that we were like, oh, the story actually like was very tasteful in doing how it handled that. But yeah,
not the best wording for it, but you know what you know.
Yeah. But you still partially recommend it. So,
yep.
All right. So then, Gamer, your final verdict. Do we have what? I think I know what the ditto is now, but what was the ditto?
The ditto was partial.
Yeah.
Namely because of like a couple of the drawbacks. Like the intro is questionably, or to some unquestionably, overdone. Especially if the reader has like lived this sort of life with an abusive parent. Like, know who you're recommending it to. Because you could trigger someone absolutely super easy. Because I would assume some people have stopped reading partway through the intro if they've lived any kind of that life, and I don't blame them for stopping, because shit sucks. And then part two is like when Jamie gets Morgan out of the house, and then Morgan's like, I'm the most important person in the world right now. If she takes me, the world will end. It's like, okay, that's ridiculous. But who knows what brought that on? Because she was put into a mental institution after that. Whether that's because she's legitimately gone insane, or it's just because no one believes her, because who would? Who knows? But aside from those two issues, the story is well written and explains the settings and situations quite well. So I would fully recommend it if just the intro wasn't as needlessly harsh, honestly. I would fully recommend it, because like her being a special snowflake, that's fine, whatever, I don't care. But it's mainly the intro that stuck with me the most.
Yeah. Like, it is a horror story, but like you could maybe tone it down a little bit for some audiences.
Yeah, like if it's meant to make people scared and uncomfortable, sure, it did it. It's a scary story with uncomfortable subject matter, so mission accomplished. But sometimes too much is too much.
All right, so 2 partials and a recommendation, and that'll do it for this week's episode. So if you like what you heard, or if you didn't, leave a comment in the comment section below, where this gets posted. Some of us are on Blue Sky. Mikey is at the E Stands for Evil, and I'm at Review Cultist. You can also send us emails at aldenterigamortis@gmail.com. That's ALDENTERIGAMORTIS @gmail.com, where you can also leave us suggestions for other creepypastas, SCPs, spooky things. You creep it, we'll peep it.
Yeah.
And if you'd like to help support our show financially, you can go to Patreon. We have special episodes, early access, and extra content. To all our patrons helping support the show, thank you immensely. You're helping keep those hosting bills at bay. And as always, we very much appreciate that. And to our listeners and the authors of these stories, thank you immensely, because without your listenership, it'd be like screaming into the void. And without your authorship, writing and posting these stories on the internet, we really wouldn't have much of a show because we'd have nothing to talk about. So thank you. And now is a good time to mention that we are a part of a podcast network, Crit in the Night, an actual play and creepypasta podcast network where we're there alongside our sister podcast, One Less Die, and our cousin podcast, The Role Playing Exchange, for things that go crit in the night. Until next time, I have been your host, Review Cultist.
I'm Mikey, the East End for Evil.
And I'm the gamer in yellow.
And this has been Al Dente Rigamortis. Sleep well.